Welcome to The Road to Success, a podcast dedicated to the small business owners in the freight industry. Thank you for listening to The Road to Success. I'm your host, Aaron Peterson, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit subscribe on your podcast app. Please. For this episode, we are going to share some of your responses to the Road to Success podcast question, what is the most valuable career or business advice you have ever received? But before we do that, we have an interview with Landstar National Account Executive of Mexico Sales, Luis Gomez, to discuss cross-border shipping and its importance to the industry, as well as how Landstar supports entrepreneurs who want to participate in cross-border business. Let's get to it with Luis Gomez. Hey, Luis, Aaron with Landstar. How are you?
Buenos dias, Aaron. How you doing?
Oh, we're going to start speaking Spanish right off the gate. ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien, señor, muy bien. No como tú, pero bien, gracias a Dios.
See, I just ran out. That's all I've got.
That's all right. Hey, that's all right. That's why you have me.
Well, first thing, Luis, everyone has a different journey, so tell us how you ended up in transportation. That's the question I just like to ask everybody.
Okay, great. Well, I've have 25 years experience in transportation. I started in logistics when I arrived here to Laredo to work at the border. And from there, started working with transportation companies. And I've done all of my work of starting in operations. From operations, went into sales. I've done sales management for U.S. and Mexico sales teams. And once I got to sales, and I found my niche, and this is where I've been. I've made my career in sales, specifically as a specialist selling between the U.S. and Mexico.
Nice. And when you first started, what got you to the door? Like, what made you decide I want to work in transport? Was it one of those things like me where it's just, I need a job? Well,
funny thing, I'm from Louisiana, so actually I went home for Mardi Gras one year, and I received a call. I was already working in Laredo or in the area in South Texas, so I went home for Mardi Gras, and I got a call that a logistics company from New Orleans wanted to set up an office, what is now referred to as the 3PLs. This is like pre-3PL days. They said, we want to set up an office, from the New Orleans area, but we want to be able to set up in Laredo to be able to ship into Mexico. They gave me the outline of what it was, and I said, well, sure, let's see. Now, that contract was supposed to be for 1 year in Laredo, and here I am 25 years later.
Man, it's amazing how everybody ends up in transportation and how we bet.
Right.
Once you get in, you're in forever, it feels like.
For sure.
Start out by telling us what cross-border is, why it's so important to freight brokers and owner-operators industry-wide.
Absolutely. Cross-border is the ability to move raw materials south from the U.S. into Mexico and finished goods to move them north from Mexico into the U.S. In the perfect world, we would have a 1-to-1 ratio. We don't have that. There's a lot more merchandise that is produced in Mexico that moves into the U.S. Now, to answer your question, what brings the owner-operators and what makes this good for freight brokers is that when you're moving in and out of Mexico into any of the border cities, specifically Laredo, it's a greater length of haul. So there's a lot more miles that can be put in when you're bringing freight to and from the border. And there are better margins. It's better paid. The better margins come in when it's you have a longer length of haul into and out of Laredo and the border cities. What we like to do in Mexico sales for Landstar, for our agents and our owner-operators, is to find round-trip opportunities. So that, let's say you have an owner-operator leaving Chicago coming into Laredo. Our goal is to get also some freight moving back up from Laredo, back up anywhere near Chicago, so that owner-operator has a round trip. That is our ultimate goal. It does a couple of things. One, it keeps the freight moving. Two, it keeps that owner-operator moving and earning revenue in and out of the border cities, and also for the agents to be able to book not just one load, but 2 loads coming in and out of the border cities.
How does it work at the border? In terms of the truck gets to the Landstar facility or it gets on the Mexican side, how does that work? Like, what does the transportation company have to do to get it across?
Okay, well, what typically happens is that you bring the trailers into the yard here that we have at the Landstar facility in Laredo, Texas. That owner-operator drops it at our yard, and then he waits for another load to move back north. That driver does not move into Mexico. They leave it here in Laredo, Texas, and then the process for crossing the freight, which includes the freight forwarders and brokers, to clear the merchandise with Mexico Customs for it to move south into Mexico. Now, we also have that service here at the Laredo facility to do that, but typically customers have their own brokers and forwarders, and then we take it to their yard, and then they do the crossing and then move it into Mexico.
Basically, the driver drops it off. You do the customs work, or whoever forwards it back into Mexico, and then on the Mexico side, someone picks up that trailer and delivers it to its ultimate destination.
That is correct. And we make that easy for our agents also, because we have interchange agreements with carriers in Mexico. We have over 200 carriers in Mexico. Depending on what the destination is in Mexico, we negotiate those rates on the agent's behalf. And depending on where it's going, those are the specialists that we have on the Mexico side for different cities. Certain carriers have, let's say, yards in different cities in Mexico: Monterrey, Querétaro, Mexico City. So the ones that specialize in those areas are the ones that we deliver those trailers to their yards so that they can take it to the final destination. Now, they must comply. At a minimum, they have to be CTPAT certified, which is anti-terrorism. The program for anti-terrorism, which is it's a federal mandate. So they have to be CTPAT, and they have to come here and get certified by our operations teams here in Laredo before they can do business with Landstar, because we need to make sure that any of the freight or any of the trailers are safe and secure, and we need to trust those partners that are doing business with Landstar as well on the Mexican side.
That's fascinating. Why should customers and entrepreneurs be excited for the opportunity to do cross-border business?
Oh, it's the opportunities that are in the Mexico market. We're only doing currently 1% of the market of total Mexico. So there's so much growth potential in Mexico. Gets me excited for what I do. I spend pretty much every week I'm in a different city in Mexico following up either a sales lead or closing on some business on behalf of agents. I also invite agents from the U.S. to come with me to close on that business in Mexico. We're the ones in Mexico sales, we facilitate those meetings in English and in Spanish. If the customer's not very strong in their English in Mexico, that's okay. We're there for that. If the agent is not strong in Spanish, that's okay. We're there for that. So we facilitate and assist on closing those deals. And with that market as wide open as it is, the ones that take advantage of the growth potential that's in Mexico are the ones that are going to prosper in this market.
What's most important to customers to the cross-border process? I would think, this is just my basic transportation knowledge and maybe my ignorance, I don't know. I would think security would be the most important aspect to it. Is that correct or incorrect? You
are absolutely right. I mean, price is important to customers in Mexico, but it is not number one by far. Number one, and I can't give these in any specific order, but every week that I'm down in Mexico, I always hear safety, security, reliability. Mm-hmm. Those are always most important than price. So it's not, who has the cheapest price? No, I need to know that my goods that I'm moving between the U.S. and Mexico are going to be safe, secure, and that the movements across the border are going to be reliable, so that we keep track of everything that's happening, so we maintain control and we maintain that integrity of what the customers are looking for.
You feel kind of like you're in charge of the military at this point? I mean, you're going through...
No, not at all. I mean, and what I like to do, I love showing off our facility, not just the customers, not just the agents, but heck, even to competitors that want to come by. Look, this is how it's done. This is what others aspire to. I love showing off our facility because of the fact that we have so many services that we offer to the Mexico market.
It's a beautiful facility, too. I've looked at it quite a bit. It's gorgeous.
Well, okay, come on down. You're welcome anytime, and I'll show you around. I love showing this place off.
It's beautiful. It's got a crane. It's got everything. I don't know what more you need.
Absolutely.
So tell me about the facility itself, because the Landstar facility in Laredo, Texas, and like I said, I wasn't kidding. There's a gigantic crane that you have on site. The facility is massive. I mean, it's it's pretty new now. It's a few years old now, but it looks gorgeous. I mean, and it's very functional. It handles a lot of customers' business, and I think it also creates a feeling of you don't have to worry about it. Your freight's in good hands.
That is correct. And what we do is we have a menu of services here at the facility. What we do in sales, and we go talk to customers, and we're presenting our services to them. What we do is we don't go in and say, oh, you're going to use us for this, this, this. No, quite the contrary. We have a menu of services, and we ask the customers, what are your needs? So based on what we hear, what we listen to those customers, then we tell them these are the services that are available, and we create tailor-made solutions for the customers. We're not there to tell them, oh, this is all we do, because in Mexico, for the most part, most customers see the Landstar trailer, so their assumption is that we're only a truckload carrier. But no, we're much more than that, because the menu of services here in Laredo include truckload, LTL, which is less than truckload, intermodal, heavy haul, and specialized services that are all done here on the same facility. So there might be some customers that require heavy haul and that large crane that you're talking about. Well, there might be customers that don't need the crane. They only need intermodal services. Well, we can do that too. There might be customers that only need truckload service. You know what? We can do that as well. Depending on what their needs are. Like I said, it's tailor-made. Based on what their needs are, then the customer chooses, okay, I need this service, I don't need these. Okay, then we create a solution based on what we hear and then present that as a solution to a customer. We don't consider ourselves as going in there as a sales representative, because there's plenty of them out there. We're more consultants to our customers. We want to be partners with the customers, and we want to partner up with the agents to tell them, you know what, we work as a team. This is a solution we present jointly to the customer to allow the agents to secure more business in and out of Mexico.
One more thing about the facility. Why do you have the crane? Explain that to people. I mean, I know why, because I've looked into it, because I'm fascinated by this thing. But why do you have a crane on site? Because I've had people ask me that when we were talking about Mexican business. Why do you need a crane on site? Why is that necessary?
Sure. The crane, what it does, before this facility was built, and we had heavy haul and flatbed and platform business that would come to Laredo, we, Landstar, would have to contract an outside crane to come to the yard and then do the transload from the U.S. Equipment onto the Mexico equipment. There's a lot of things involved there. There's time, there's money, because those cranes that you call in are very expensive once they come in. And then if something is not right, if the Mexico trailer is not there, or if the U.S. trailer is delayed, you're still on the clock for using that crane. What we do now is that since the crane is on site, we have specialists that they are trained in using that crane. That's all they do all day, every day. So we can actually set the appointments based on when the U.S. driver will arrive, and we'll also have Mexico equipment, let's say Mexico platform equipment, that is already on the yard. So we place it on the crane, and then we do the actual transload from the U.S. equipment to the Mexico equipment. Now, that crane itself, there are some that we do side to side. There are some where we only do the lift. We lift the actual piece. The U.S. trailer moves out. The Mexico trailer backs in. So as far as safety, all you're doing is lifting and then bringing it back down. The advantages of that are now we're not having to wait and contract an outside crane. We're also having personnel that work for Landstar that are trained on that crane that are in charge of those movements. And then the other is the advantage to the agent, because now we have the rates that we have on that crane are much, much more competitive than you would having to get an outside crane to be able to do those specific transloads. Now, the reason why that is so important is because, as I mentioned, there's a lot more freight headed north than there is south. So there's not enough equipment in the U.S. that can go into Mexico. So we rely on our Mexico carriers to be able to bring those platforms and that empty equipment so that we can use their equipment and they can take it into Mexico where they are specialists in their market. So it brings all those rules together, and it makes it much more easier for us to secure heavy haul and specialized freight and do it all on site under our supervision. It all stays here under this safety net, which is Landstar.
What is that procedure like when a trailer comes into customs, either side? I mean, do they go through every aspect of the trailer? Are they looking through the cargo itself? I mean, I'm just curious. How does that work?
For northbound, for freight coming out from Mexico into the U.S., the system is differently, because there are a lot of times what's called a pre-file. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. brokers can pre-file the paperwork even before the trailer arrives to the border. And then a lot of times Customs and Border Protection will run random checks on trailers, and they have an X-ray machine just to make sure that they run, not all of them, but they do run some through the X-ray machine, make sure there's nothing that's not supposed to be in the trailer. And then typically it'll run from there and then come straight to the Landstar yard. Now they have fast lanes so that some of those shippers, many of the automotive shippers, use the fast lane because you have to be pre-registered to use the fast lane, and that helps those shipments flow between the U.S. and Mexico. Others that are not in the fast lane, they do have to wait. Sometimes the crossing does take sometimes 2 to 3 hours. So those drivers that are there have to wait that long to cross from Mexico to the U.S. Now, from the U.S. going into Mexico, Mexico Customs is a little different. As I mentioned, there's a Mexico broker that has to file paperwork, and then until those duties and taxes are paid to the Mexico government, that trailer cannot physically move into Mexico. Once the duties and taxes are paid, paperwork has been entered into Mexico Customs, then it enters into Mexico. And it can also be checked at random, just to make sure that what's on the paperwork, it's a lot more manual process going into Mexico than it is into the U.S. But each one of them has their advantages and disadvantages. And again, crossing into Mexico, again, might take 2 to 3 hours headed south.
All right. So how does Landstar support agents and customers that are interested in getting involved in cross-border business?
What we do is we look for the agents to come down, not necessarily physically here, but at least they have a knowledge of what it is that we do. When we tell them what our knowledge of the market and our presence in the market, and then we talk about those tailor-made solutions, we interview the agents based on the opportunities, and we interview their customers based on their opportunities. And we bring all those worlds together. We bridge that gap so that our main message to the agents who have never done business in Mexico, our main message is you don't have to be an expert in the Mexico market to do business in Mexico. That's why you have us. We have many years of experience in sales and operations for Landstar here at the border, and it is designed with the agents in mind and the success of those agents to create additional revenues for their agencies and for Landstar as well. So everybody wins at that point. The owner-operator wins because there's additional trips that are coming down south as well as back north. The agent gains revenue because there's additional revenue based on that length of haul and the round-trip opportunities for those agents as well. Landstar wins because there's greater revenue and greater presence in the market. So our mantra is everybody wins, and you don't have to be an expert to do business in Mexico. That's why you have us.
All right. And the road to success question, the question we're asking other people throughout the podcast, we want to get your take on it. What is the single best business advice you've ever received?
I'll tell you, it's funny because as sales reps, we are hardwired to speak. In other words, talk, talk, talk. That's typically you're a salesperson. That's what you're doing. However, in my career, I've learned that the most effective salespeople are the ones that are the best listeners. The best advice I have had from my training and from my mentors is I was told once, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should always listen twice as much as what you speak. And in sales, it is so important because you have to listen to the customer and listen to what their needs are before you present a solution so that that customer knows that you're listening to him and you're providing, as I mentioned, a tailor-made solution based on what he needs, not what I want to sell. It's what he wants to buy, not what I want to sell. That's how you close your sales.
Man, good luck to everybody else trying to top that one. Well done.
It works. That's I've done that for many years, and believe me, it works.
That's great advice.
Hey, man, I'm very passionate about what I do, and hopefully, I love radiating that because I'm so proud of what we're doing here with Landstar and the opportunity that I'm getting to actually open the Mexico market and getting people down here to see this. That's what pumps me up, man. What someone once said that if you really enjoy what you're doing, it's not really a job. You know, if you're passionate about what you're doing, it just radiates, and that's what I try to do every time that I have a contact with anyone that wants to talk about Landstar.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. You've done it. This has been great.
Good, man. I appreciate you, man. Okay, if you need something else, need a follow-up, you want to do it in Spanish, hey, let's do it in Spanish. I have no problem with that as well.
Nobody wants to hear me try that. You take care.
All right, brother. I appreciate it, man. Take care.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Luis. Now we're going to get to, as promised, Landstar listener feedback. You know, recently on social media, we posed this question, hashtag the road to success. It's our podcast question. What is the most valuable career or business advice you have ever received? And we had a lot of interesting responses to this, so we picked out some for the show. Mike McKee, who owns McKee Transport Inc. in Delray Beach, Florida, says the most valuable business advice he received is work on your agency more than you're working in it. That is great advice. Ken Perquette, who's an independent Landstar agency, U.S. Carriers Inc., is based in Norwood, North Carolina. He says, genuinely invest and build relationships. Then the business will come. I think Kevin Costner gave that same advice when he was hanging around that baseball field. Okay, we've also got some voicemails, so you guys ready? Here's the first one from Ronnie Haddon.
Hi, guys. Yeah, this is Ronnie Haddon. Just shared a little bit of old advice that an old man gave me one time about starting a business and keeping it going. He told me the first thing he told me was run your business like you're going broke, and turn around and walk up to your business from a customer's point of view, not a business point of view. I questioned him about the first one, run your business like you're going broke. He turned around and he told me, he said, well, there's a when and there's an if. He said, you need to pay attention to the when. The when is when it's going to happen, not the if. If you run your business for when and you run it like it's broke, you're always going to have the money for when that transmission goes out, or no matter what type of business you're in. If the roof needs replaced, there's all kind of things that are going to happen in this world. A lot of people see the first paychecks and they say, oh, I've got this money. I only need half of it to pay my bills. They don't look into the future. The future is what's going to keep you going, not the now. As far as the looking at it from a customer's point of view, walk up to your truck, look in the mirror in our business. What do you see? Look at it like you're the customer looking at you. Is your truck presentable? Say you walk up to a restaurant. What's the first thing you see as a customer? Is the lot clean? Are the doors clean? Are the people dressed nice? You know, would you want to go back and do business with them? Appearance is everything. We need to start looking at that in our business. You know, a lot of people have forgotten about the small little aspects that keep a business running and going and growing. Without the little things in life, we are never going to accomplish our goals and get to where we want to be. That's just a little info on what I was told by an old man many, many years ago when I first opened up my first business. Thought I'd share it. Hope you'll have a blessed day.
Thank you so much for that, Ronnie. That's great advice. And I think that first part, the run your business like you're going broke, I'm going to duct tape that in my wife's checkbook. All right, the next one is from Bill Ader.
The best business advice I could give, this is Bill Ader, is what my dad had taught me years ago. Grease is cheaper than parts, which means that anytime you're under there greasing your truck, you can look for things that are broken. And just keeping your truck maintained, because if you take care of it, it will take care of you.
Thanks, Bill. That's more great advice. And you're absolutely right. Grease is a lot cheaper than parts, especially if I'm working on your vehicle. Because, true story, once I check the oil and the radiator. Therefore, you're definitely going to need more parts. All right, let's go to Lisa Ringlesetter.
Hi, this is Lisa Ringlesetter. I've been given great advice over the many years I've been out on the road. One of the best was, courtesy and professionalism is the key to success and goes a long way. Give the customer more than they ask for, and they'll ask for you again. Take care and stay safe out there.
Thank you, Lisa. Also a great point. Courtesy and professionalism is always great advice. I can't tell you how many years I've been at Landstar, and more times than I can count, courtesy has helped solve many a problem and brought many a customers back for more. Let's move to our next one from Chris Crimshaw.
The best business advice I ever got was from my dad. My dad's been in this industry for 52 years, and he would always say, son, when freight's good and it's paying well, plentiful, make all you can, because there'll be times when it isn't. And it's very true in how our economy rises and falls, and what we're going through right now with the COVID-19 crisis. I always took that advice to heart and made it while I could, so times like this, I can still make it through and pay my bills, and I'll come out the other side just fine. So I'd have to say that's the best business advice I ever got from my dad, is make it while you can, because sometimes it won't always be there to be made. My name's Chris Grimshaw. I'm a BCO with Landstar Ranger for a little over 11 years.
Thank you for that, Chris. That is great advice, especially in the circumstances we're all dealing with now. Make it while you can. Love it. All right, let's move to our last one, Nick Marcoux.
Billy, this is Nick Marcoux, an Express America BCO. Best business advice that has been given to me is to always have a backup plan to your backup plan, and a bad day does not make a bad year. All right, thank you.
Absolutely love that. Always have a backup plan for your backup plan. And a bad day does not make a bad year. And you know what? I'll even share the best business advice I was ever given. It was given to me by my grandfather when I was very young. He said, whatever you do in either life or business, always do it with actions. Never rely on words. It's something that stayed with me throughout life and definitely has applied to business. Okay, please follow us on social media and search for hashtag Road to Success for our next question. Answer on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Leave us a voicemail at 800-577-5227. That's 800-577-5227. Or just email us roadtosuccess@landstar.com. We may read your answer on an upcoming episode. Guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for coming back to the podcast, and thank you for listening to The Road to Success. Be sure to keep reading our Road to Success magazine. More episodes will be on the way soon, so be sure to hit subscribe right now before you leave, so you're the first to get the very next episode, as well as find Landstar's social media pages and share this episode with your friends. Always use hashtag Road to Success and tell us where in the country you are listening from. If you have an interesting story to share, please let us know. Road to Success at Landstar.com. And no matter what end of the trucking business you fall into, always remember that safety comes first. See you next time.